By the time I walked through the front door, I already knew where I was supposed to stand. Not because anyone said it out loud, because everything in that house had been arranged long before I arrived. The good chair was pulled out, the centerpiece was angled just right, and the first laugh I heard came from Levi, not even looking up when I stepped in. "Hey," I said. My mother hugged me quickly, then turned back to the stove. "Can you grab the glasses?" Of course I could. I set my bag down, rolled up my sleeves, and slipped into the role that always waited for me, quiet, useful. Out of the way. At the table. Julian tried. "So, Nadia, how's work been?" "It's been." "She's always busy." My mother cut in, smiling like she was proud of something she didn't need to understand. "Never sit still." "That one." Levi smirked. "Yeah, she likes keeping things mysterious. A few soft laughs. Not cruel. Just easy." I smiled too. That's what you do when something lands just slightly wrong, but no one else notices. "My name is Nadia Voss. I'm 34 years old. And in this house, I've always been the one who doesn't need anything. I carried plates, refilled drinks, listened to stories about Levi's new place, his plans, his future. Every time I opened my mouth, the conversation curved back to him like it couldn't hold my weight for long. Later, I stepped out onto the back porch to take a call. "Yeah," I said quietly. The transfer cleared. I didn't see Levi behind the door, but I heard the silence shift, and for the first time that night, I realized he wasn't looking at me like family anymore. He was looking at me like something didn't add up. What exactly did he think I was hiding? And as always, this story is a work of fiction, created by the Revenge Pulse team for storytelling purposes. The kitchen was louder than the dining room. Not in volume, in patterns. My mother moved fast, efficient, practiced. She handed me things without looking. "Can you rinse those and grab the extra plates?" I did. "You've always been like this," she said lightly. "Strong, easy, never complicated like your brother." It sounded like praise. It always did. But it wasn't. It was the reason no one ever stopped to ask what I needed. Levi walked in, opened the fridge, didn't close it all the way. "Mom, did you call the realtor back? I will," she said instantly. "Don't worry." Of course she would. Julian leaned against the counter. "Mr. Voss," he called toward the living room. "You must be proud of how independent she is." My father looked over, just for a second. "She's doing fine," he said. Then he turned back. "Levi needs to move quickly on that house. Timing matters." That was the answer. Not wrong. Just not about me. Levi smiled without looking at me. "She likes her space," he added. "Always has. Keeps things to herself." I dried my hands slowly. "She makes it hard to know her," he continued, "like she's above all this." No one corrected him. My mother just nodded a little, like that version of me made sense. That was the part that stayed with me, not what he said, that no one questioned it. Later, in the hallway, Julian lowered his voice. "Why do they talk about you like that?" I didn't answer right away. "Because the truth wasn't complicated. If they admit I needed the same things he did," I said quietly, "they'd have to admit they didn't give them to me." I looked back toward the kitchen. In their eyes, I wasn't hard to understand. I was easier to misread. And that was the version they chose to keep. In my own family, I wasn't mysterious because I was quiet. I was mysterious because they never really tried to see me at all. I stepped into the living room for a minute of quiet. Just one. My phone buzzed. A notification from the bank, clean. Minimal. The kind that never made noise unless it mattered. I opened it. Transfer complete. I scanned the numbers once, then again, more out of habit than doubt. Everything lined up. Everything closed exactly the way it was supposed to. I moved to lock the screen. "Hey." Levi's voice came from behind me. Too close. I turned slightly, but not fast enough. His eyes had already dropped to my phone, already caught the number sitting there like it didn't belong in this house. $1.2 million. He didn't say anything at first, just stared. Then, "What is that?" His tone wasn't curious. It was sharp, immediate. I locked the screen. "Nothing you need to worry about." "That's not nothing," he said, stepping closer. "Where did you get that I held his gaze?" "It's mine," from what he pressed. "What do you actually do?" The question wasn't about work. It was about control. "I work," I said evenly. "I invest. It adds up. And you never told anyone I don't owe anyone a breakdown of my finances." The words landed clean. Too clean. I saw it shift in his face, not confusion, not concern. Something tighter, like I had just stepped out of a role he was used to me playing. "You always do this," he said. "Keep things to yourself. Act like you're separate." I didn't respond, because this wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the version of me he needed to keep intact. Later, at the table, he tested it. "Funny how some people live whole lives you don't even know about," he said lightly. "Makes you wonder what else they're not saying." My father looked up. My mother paused. That was enough. Levi wasn't trying to understand what he saw. He was building a story around it. And he wasn't going to ask me for the truth first. He was going to let everyone else decide it, then make me defend it. Dinner started the way it always did. Plates passed, glasses filled, small talk that never stayed small for long. "So," my father said, cutting into his food, "how's work?" It sounded casual. "It wasn't busy," I said. "Same as usual. Always busy," my mother added quickly. "We barely hear from you." Levi leaned back in his chair. "That's because she doesn't like people knowing what she's doing." I didn't look at him. "I just work." I said, "That's it." He smiled slightly. "Yeah," quietly, like always. My mother nodded, almost without thinking. "You've always been hard to read." There it was. Not a question. A label. Julian shifted beside me. Or maybe she just doesn't feel the need to explain everything. He said. My father didn't respond to him. He was watching me now. "Why not share more?" he asked. "You're part of this family." "I am," I said. "That doesn't mean everything I do needs to be discussed at dinner." Levi let out a soft laugh. "See, that's what I mean. Always separate." I exhaled slowly, because every time I spoke, he translated it. I said private. He heard secretive. I said independent. He turned it into distant. And no one corrected the version that made me easier to question. Julian tried again. "Levi, come on. It's not that serious." "It is if something doesn't add up," Levi said, eyes still on me. "She doesn't live like someone just scraping by." The room tightened. My father set his fork down. "What does that mean?" Levi didn't answer right away. He didn't have to. I could feel it shift to the center of the table, the direction of attention, the weight of expectation. This wasn't dinner anymore. It was a story forming in real time. And I wasn't the one telling it. Before anyone saw that number again, they had already decided what kind of person would have it. Levi didn't wait anymore. "Dad," he said, cutting straight through the table. "Ask her about the money." Everything stopped. "What money?" my father asked. Levi looked at me, then back at him. "She's got over $1 million sitting in her account." Silence dropped hard. My father turned fully now. "Is that true?" I kept my voice steady. "Yes," from where he demanded. "What is that?" "My money," I said. "Built over time. Work. Investments." "That's not an answer," he snapped. "It is," I said. "You just don't like it." Levi leaned forward. "Or maybe it's not that simple. Maybe there's a reason she never told anyone." My mother's face tightened. "Nadia, what is this?" "It's legal," I said. "It's mine. That's all that matters. But it wasn't. Not here." because they had never built a version of me that could hold something that big. Levi pushed again. You sure it's clean? I turned to him slowly. Be careful. He didn't stop, because people don't just wake up with that kind of money unless enough. My father cut in. But it wasn't to stop him. It was to stop me. He stood up so fast his chair scraped hard against the floor. You expect me to believe this just appeared? I expect you to listen. I said. You're lying. He said. I'm not. The sound came before I processed it. Sharp. Immediate. My head turned with it. For a second. No one moved. Then his voice followed. You're a thief. Not loud. Certain. Julian was on his feet. You don't get to. My mother started crying. Victor, stop. Levi said nothing. Of course he didn't. I touched my cheek, felt the heat rising under my skin, and something colder underneath it. They didn't need proof. They needed a reason. And this was easier. That was the moment it became clear. They would believe I stole it before they ever believed I earned it. So this wasn't the end of dinner. It was the beginning of something much worse. No one reset the table after that. They just sat in it. I stayed, not because I wanted to, because I needed one clean moment where truth actually stood on its own. I have records, I said. My voice was steady again. Tax filings, investment history, every dollar accounted for. My father didn't sit back down. He didn't even look convinced. That doesn't change what this looks like. He said, It changes everything, I replied. If you're willing to look, I am looking. He snapped, and I don't like what I see. Of course he didn't, because what he saw didn't fit the version of me he had already accepted. Levi stepped in before I could push further. If it's all real, he said. Calm now, measured. Then why hide it? I didn't hide it, I said. I just didn't report it to you. That's the same thing in a family. He said, No, it wasn't. But no one corrected him. He leaned forward, voice tightening just enough. And if you really care about this family, then you don't get to keep all of it to yourself. I felt it before he said it. That line, that shift. Half, he said. Give half. That's fair. The room didn't explode. It bent. My mother wiped her face. Maybe we can just talk about what's reasonable. My father didn't stop him. Not once. Because this had already moved past right and wrong. This was about need. Levi's voice hardened. I have a deal on the line. This house, if I don't close, I lose everything. There it was. Not fear, urgency. And I was supposed to fix it. Julian stood up. You don't get to ask that, and you definitely don't get to hit her and then negotiate. My father didn't apologize. He didn't even look at me. That's when I understood. This wasn't about clearing my name. They weren't questioning me because they doubted. They were questioning me because they needed access. And once I saw that clearly, there was nothing left here to fix. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I'm leaving, I said. That was it. Julian was already grabbing his coat before anyone could respond. He didn't look at them. He looked at me. Now, he said quietly. I nodded. No one stopped us. Not really. Don't do this, my mother said. But she didn't stand up. Just talk, my father added, like that word still meant something. I picked up my bag. Don't contact me about money, I said, clear, direct. Don't ask. Don't suggest. Don't bring it up again. Levi scoffed. You're overreacting. I looked at him once. Just once. Don't ever repeat tonight, I added. To me, or about me. Then I walked out. No permission, no pause. For the first time, I didn't shrink to fit the room I was leaving. At the hotel, I turned my phone off, just long enough to hear myself think. When I turned it back on the next morning, the messages were already there. Dozens. Levi first angry, sharp, defensive, then softer, then calculating. We need to talk. You're blowing this up. You know this affects everyone. Then the real ones. I have a deposit down. If this falls through, I'm screwed. Julian read over my shoulder. That's it, he said. That's what this was. I nodded. Not suspicion, not concern, a problem. And I was supposed to solve it. My parents' messages came slower, less direct, but they circled the same thing. Stress, pressure, timing, no apology, not one. I typed a single response. Any further contact about money will be blocked. Then I sent it to all of them. And for the first time in my life, I stepped out of the space where their problems became mine. By morning, everything they were trying to hold together had already started to crack. The messages didn't stop. They just changed shape. Levi left voicemails now, short, tight, focused. Call me back. We need to figure this out. You can't just disappear when things get serious. Not once did he ask if I was okay. Not once did he mention what happened at the table. It was always the same center: money, the house, the timeline. Julian listened to one, then handed the phone back. He's not even pretending anymore. He didn't need to. The mask only matters when someone's still watching. My mother called next. Her voice was softer, controlled. You know things are complicated right now, she said. Your father's under pressure. Levi's trying to stabilize his future. I waited. You should try to understand that, she added. Understand. Not what happened to me. What they needed from me. You're not going to say anything about last night, I asked. A pause. That's not what this call is about, she said. Of course it wasn't. Because if they named it, they'd have to face it. And that would cost them more than pretending. The call ended there, not abruptly, just empty. Later that afternoon, Helena called. She didn't circle anything. I heard. She said, and I know exactly where that money came from. I sat down. She walked through it cleanly. The inheritance, the early investments, the years of compounding. Nothing sudden, nothing hidden. Your father knows this, she added. Or at least, he should. That landed harder than anything else, because it meant the truth wasn't new. It was just inconvenient. And for years, Helena continued, they've treated you like the one who doesn't need anything, so they could give everything to him. No emotion, just fact. That's what broke it. Not the numbers, not the proof, the pattern. They didn't misunderstand me. They chose the version of me that made their choices easier to live with. And once that collapsed, there was nothing left to hide behind. He didn't call first. He showed up. The hotel lobby was quiet when I saw him standing there, hands still, posture unfamiliar without authority holding it together. I need to talk to you, he said. Not, come home. Not, we need to fix this. Just that. We sat across from each other. No table between us this time. No noise to hide behind. I shouldn't have hit you, he said. I didn't respond. I was wrong. He added, about that. About what I said. That's one part. I said, say all of it. He hesitated, so I said it for him. You hit me. You called me a thief. And you spent years treating me like I didn't need to be seen. His eyes dropped. That's not what I meant to do. I know. I said, it's what you chose to do. Silence sat there longer this time. Then he said it. Slow. Careful. Like he was hearing it for the first time himself. You didn't need us the way he did, he said. So we gave him more. Not defense. Not excuse. Just truth. You gave him everything. I said, and told yourself I was fine. He nodded once. That was the closest he could get to admitting it. I'm sorry, he said again. I let it sit. Then I shook my head. Don't use that to open the door again, I said. No more conversations about my money. No more decisions about my life. No more showing up like you still have a say. He didn't argue, because he couldn't. Whatever authority he had used to pull me back before it was gone now, I understand, he said. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But it didn't matter anymore, because his apology didn't give him access. And for the first time, he knew it. I didn't go back. Not for another dinner. Not for a conversation that tried to soften what had already been said. Distance did what explanation never could. It made the boundary real. Levi's deal didn't hold. The timeline collapsed first. Then the financing. Then everything that had been built on the assumption that someone else would step in and fix it. No one did. My parents couldn't cover the gap they had promised, not without breaking something else. And for once, there was no quiet fallback waiting behind me. That was the part no one said out loud. They had always assumed I'd be there, even when they didn't look at me, even when they didn't choose me. That assumption was gone now. My father kept his distance. Not because things were fixed, because he understood they weren't his to fix through me anymore. My mother tried, once or twice, to reach out in softer ways. Messages that stayed on the surface. Nothing about money, nothing about that night, but also nothing that faced it. That space stayed where it was, unresolved and honest. I didn't send anything back, not out of anger, out of clarity. Julian and I built something quieter, smaller, maybe, but clean. A life where I didn't have to earn my place by disappearing into it. Months later, I set up a small education fund, structured, protected, untouchable by anyone who thought family meant access. Not for them, for the next version of someone like me. The number they saw that night was never the problem. $1.2 million didn't break that house. What broke it was the moment they believed they had a right to it. And for the first time, I stopped trying to prove they were wrong. I just lived like they weren't part of the answer anymore. If this story made you feel something, take a second to share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that stay with you long after they end.